Okay, so what we're gonna cook today is an Indian recipe.
Yes.
Because you are Indian.
Yes.
Okay, and I don't know that everybody knows that.
Happy holidays, everyone. I wanted to take a moment to send my warmest wishes to everyone celebrating Kwanzaa.
And why do you love Hanukkah?
I love Hanukkah because it really is about the light and bringing light where there has been darkness. And there is so much work to be done in the world to bring light. And it is a
Moja
in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, we did some things that were wrong. We did a whole lot of things that were right.
We've taken control of the oil in the Middle East, the oil that we're talking about.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create.
We choose truth over facts.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. The foothills of the Himalayas.
Television is what people are saying.
We are fighting Satan himself.
Journalists, ask them the question! Ask them! Ask them! Ask them!
Agreed that everybody wants to inside this. Anyway, my time's up. I'm sorry. America's dead.
That's right, folks. America is dead.
America's dead, and it's really strange. At a point where I'm not really sure what to believe anymore, to be honest.
These restream scenes, they gotta fix this.
Yeah,
I'm about to get a StreamYard subscription because this website sucks. It's like they had it right, but then they keep changing it. It's just like, but we had a special guest on for today.
We do.
Bernie's been making a little bit of the rounds to show for Kamala, the girl boss genocider herself. So he's made a couple appearances on the podcast. I wanted to talk to Kit, who's a renowned OG, very good friend of the network. Of course, both of us have been on our lens of been in connection with Kit for a long time. Kit has a lot of experience covering the 2020 election and the convention then. So the man himself, Kit Cabello.
How you doing?
Hard lens meeting.
Gentlemen, can you hear me? Can you
hear
me loud and clear? All right.
Sound great.
Fantastic. Yeah, sorry about that earlier. The links weren't working. I get what you mean by all the restream, but nothing fills my heart with more pride than seeing more people step up into this sphere because, look, I'm an old wolf in this game, 7 years doing this shite, and I got to tell you, man, there are moments where I think I've seen everything, and yet I still get surprised. And this election cycle has left me thoroughly happy. I think this is the one election cycle where I'm happy, where it's entertaining, it's hilarious, it's depressing, it's funny, and no matter what, I am going to come out on top of this election cycle because nothing's going to stop me. But gentlemen, thank you for having me on your show. I know that we were going back and forth about having me on, and look, sorry for all the delays, but better late than never. It's a dream come true, Chicago.
That's right.
It's finally here.
There we go.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me on here.
Of course, man.
They're both parties they're kind of getting into like the more like cultural shit. Like I felt like when we had Biden, it was like we had like an endless meme cow where we could just like keep talking shit about like the gaffes he's making on a daily basis. The convention. So apparently on next week during the convention, he's showing up. He's talking on for a speech on day one, and that's it. Then he's going home. Going home. This is the president of the United States, and he's there for one day. He's going to be
a tease.
Gentlemen,
I feel like
gentlemen. Remember when Biden went to Vietnam? Because here's the thing. There's a couple of because I've been following Biden's career with great interest, and one thing in particular, it reminded me of a couple of the old people in my family before they passed away. But Biden was in Vietnam, and he was saying to the press, he was at this event. He says, "I don't know about you guys, but I'm gonna go to bed." And it sounded just like something my grandpa would say back in the day. I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to bed. It's like that's the president of these United States. He's here. He's going to be in Chicago, and then he's going to go right back. At this point, this should tell all of you that the office of presidency is irrelevant. It matters who buys the president, who's behind the throne. It's not who's in front of the throne. It doesn't matter who's president because you, the people, don't have a vote. You, the people, don't have a presence. You, the people, will not be at the table. It's the donors. Donors supersede voters. And this DNC convention, I'm already seeing the security intensify. I'm seeing the presence of the police and so much more. And if this is what democracy looks like, my God, someone get some eyewash in your eyeballs, because this is not what democracy looks like. Dare I say it? When I went to Philly with my colleague Daniel Lupker, we had more accessibility and ability to move around and actually, dare I say it, maybe even have a chance to get inside the convention. This time around, I have never seen anything this intense before. It is like a police state. It is like, here's where the political party is of the dear leader. Here's where the Fuhrer is at, and you can't go anywhere near him. Otherwise, you are going to go into the political asylum. And this,
January 6th.
yeah. And the thing is, I don't mean to rant, but just gentlemen, this is being done in a democratic city, and this is a quote-unquote liberal democratic convention that's taking place. Nothing about this is liberal or progressive. It's full-on authoritarianism.
That's always the veneer that liberals cast upon themselves, though. I feel like we've had authoritarianism in the West for longer than we'd like to admit, I think. But now it's like, for whatever reason, it feels like they're just like going full mask off. It's like, we don't care at this point. We've got enough justifications.
We kind of approach it from like a standpoint of like, boom.
Okay, that was you.
Sorry, that was my dad. He does that. He just drives around.
He just does that. That was my dog. Sorry.
It's my dog.
But that's why we kind of like approach this from like a narrative management kind of point of view. Like, so like me and Himbo actually talk about this a lot, like even on the show too. But like, what is it the establishment's thinking now that they have Biden out? Because we know that they didn't want Kamala.
Right.
We know that Obama didn't want Kamala. When that phone call that when we first got like the Obama endorsement, we know that the Obamas did not want to do that. That was not their first option.
No, the first option was probably Kamala, but until they heard her speak and how she was presenting herself, because I'll never forget it. It was 2019, Dr. Martin Luther King Day. I was at Chicago University covering a Chicago mayoral debate for the 2019 Chicago election cycle, and Kamala Harris made her announcement. And when I saw it, there was so much fanfare and explosion about it, and then it fizzled away. I think it was originally going to be Kamala. But as time progressed on, it wasn't Kamala. Then it went to Biden. Then it went to Beto O'Rourke. Then it went right back to Biden. Then it went to Buttigieg, right back to Biden. Then it went to Klobuchar, then right back to Biden, because they were throwing anything at the wall, see if it could stick. Because remember, in early 2019 and in 2020, in the early stages of primary, corporate media was also questioning Biden's mental fitness. People forget this. I mean, I remember it. I remember it thoroughly.
They won.
And it was coming to the point where as soon as Bernie Sanders not one, but 3 primaries in a row, it was inevitable that the Democrats were like, oh crap, Bernie's going to win this. And Bernie, being the nutless cuck that he is, decided to sell out, give up. And his heart was never in it. That's the thing. And I know Due Dissidence has brought this up. Jimmy Dore, he's been around longer than I have. Even Nico House. They all have said the same thing about he never had the heart to finish the job. He never had the heart for follow through. And I think I was blinded by the idealism that he could probably do it. And dreams die hard when you hold them in your hands. And it's rather disappointing to see where we are at. And now that he's publicly admitting that, yes, he was cheated. Yes, he knew that he was being cheated, and he didn't fight. He didn't fight. That fucker. How much money did you get? And you didn't fight for your... I'm sorry. I shouldn't swear on your show. I'm sorry about that, guys.
No.
Yeah.
Right
no fucking swearing, bro. That's bullshit.
Yeah,
That's the red line. Yeah. We're never shitting and farting over here.
This is a family fucking friendly show. Anybody asking any fucking questions should shut the fuck up.
Fuck! Balls!
This is the first time, so like that, and I wanted to bring you on for this because this is, I mean, I don't know about you, but 2020 is like truly, I think that was like the year when I like kind of like woke up. That was like when COVID happened. That was like when I was like became aware to the idea that the government can like shut down the whole world for 2 years, and I was like, okay, this is getting real now. Like this is getting too real now, and that like that's like when I kind of really and this is like when Bernie got cheated the second time. 2016, I was like, okay, whatever. But 2020, that Iowa caucus was the shadiest fucking shit I've ever seen, and I've only voted in 2 elections. I voted in 2016 and I voted in 2020. That Iowa caucus was the shadiest shit I've ever seen, and Bernie never publicly acknowledged it until now. I've never seen him. This is the first time I think he's actually directly said, "Oh yeah, no, they got the call."
I got something for you. I got something for you. Oh my goodness! Thank God I'm not getting too senile. Okay, because I'm pretty sure even Daniel. Shout out to him and Indy for co-hosting the show yesterday.
That was dope.
Yeah, it was great. Really, seriously, I owe Indy and Daniel a huge favor because they really stuck their necks out for me on that day. But okay. Do you guys going to jog your memories? 2018, do you guys remember, or 2017, late 2017, the People Summit? Do you guys remember that? It was in Chicago at McCormick Place. Do you guys even recall anything like that? Because I'm an old dog. I'm an old wolf.
Was that?
This was like maybe 2017, 2018. I'm spitballing between the 2 years.
I wasn't that involved at that point. No.
All right. Story time was Old Man Kit. Story time was Old Man Kit. So on
Brad
the last
was 5 years old at that point. He was about 5. So.
So I think it's still on our Facebook page, and maybe there's an old Instagram photo of it too on the Hardlands Media Instagram post. But Bernie Sanders spoke at the People Summit, and this was like this had to be late 2017. It was the People Summit, and this was when my first real legit interview with Jimmy Dore, and it was about the People's Party and trying to get Bernie Sanders into the People's Party when there was still hope for Bernie. And on the last day, Bernie Sanders spoke before the crowd. And when Bernie Sanders was talking about the election, many people in the crowd were erupting, Bernie, you were cheated. Bernie, you were denied. I think it's still on our Facebook live. I have to look for it because I know we did a live stream.
Send me the link if you find it. Yeah.
I have to find it unless it somehow got deleted. I have to look for it. But I do know that people were screaming like Bernie, and Bernie was like dismissive, like no, not true. He was trying to quiet the crowd, all the while everyone was saying, "Hey, you got cheated. I remember it because Daniel was sick that day, and I was with 2 other people who we were chilling out with at the time. And yeah, so we were there, like we were right there in the front row too. We actually pulled it off to get in the front row area of the DNC convention. Not DNC. Jeez, I'm getting everything confused. I'm getting secondhand dementia. It was of the People Summit. It was rather a historic thing. I have to look for the video, but I could find it and send you the link, and you'll be able to see firsthand it. No, people been telling Bernie Sanders, hey, not only did you get cheated in 2016, hey, dude, you got cheated in 2020.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say real quick, it was rough being someone who was skeptical of Bernie from the beginning. That was tough when everybody was a Bernie bro and everybody was like, this is our revolution. And I'm sitting here thinking, I don't buy it. Like, oh my God, I got dogpiled at every turn.
It's okay, dude, because here's the thing. I mean, I wasn't a diehard Bernie Sanders supporter. Like, I could take criticism because here's the thing. You know, during the 2020 election, I know that there were people who were for Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard. And I was like, okay, there's some criticism about Bernie. Fine, I could listen to it. But, you know, now the further I look back, especially when people were criticizing Bernie, a lot of those people, their voices should have been heard. And it's okay. Hey, you've been vindicated because it's true. I'll admit it. I was wrong about Bernie. I take back any kind word, any kind segment, and I have to carry that L. And that's the thing. When you're in this business, and you know, it serves as a lesson for anybody else that comes after me, comes after you guys. Listen to me when I say this, okay? Don't listen to anyone older than you, but I get it. But hear me out. Do not fall in love with a politician. Don't believe in them. You have to believe in your words, and either that. Building movements and organizations not connected to Washington, D.C. I made that mistake. It's a lesson I learned. I got burnt by it. Mm-hmm. And if we can help other people who get in this space to avoid getting connected to that, and I know it's easy to get connected to a person. It's easy. Don't fall for it. Be skeptical. Question everything, because that's how you remain a free person.
Exactly. Very well said. And also, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I feel like too many people, especially in the West, and I empathize. I do. I was there. We all were. Too many people in the West get this wrong about politicians. These are not supposed to be deities that you revere from below. These are supposed to be your representatives. They are supposed to be representing your wants and needs. The second you start looking up to them, like you're a little baby and they're a daddy who you need to breastfeed. Wait, dad breastfeed. Oh my God.
Whoa.
Okay.
Hey.
We don't do culture work.
Hey, let's be clear here.
13.
We don't need no Mr. Beast scandal here, or any fresh and fit, or any fresh and fit scandal here as well. Because after all, I see Dr. Nick in the chat, it's boys being boys.
That's what.
You know what? Speaking of holding L's, I will hold that one. Okay. But my point is,
I'll admit, I was a liberal until 2020. Like, I was 21 when I voted in 2016. So I mean, like, it's like what you know. I was. I don't.
Here's the thing.
My brain fully developed until like 25. I think that's like when I really woke up, and that was like really.
Dude, we gotta cut you a break, okay? You're only 14 years old. You got a lot
that's
of
why
growing
I'm
to
giving
do.
myself. I'm giving myself the pass. I'm only 7. I'm actually a leap year birthday. My birthday's on the 29th, so like it only. I'm only like 7.
Listen, guys, Crab was just born. Give him some time.
Yeah, just give me some time. I need to learn. I'm a young crab. I'm trying to learn.
No. Listen, Crab. Did you know in the fossil record that the design of the crab has been done many times? You are an immortal spirit, man, forever to capture the soul of humanity and of the earth. You've been around for a long time, and just because you are the mad crab does not mean that you are mad. You're just upset.
Yeah. But like the point is, we've been brainwashed and psyoped so hard that, and you see it in North American politics and even up here in Canada. I wish someone had a show on that. Oh well. But like we've been psyoped so fucking hard to like look at MAGA, look at Blue MAGA. They revere these people. They're not like, what are you doing to represent me? Here's what I want. What are you doing to deliver? That's not even the conversation. It's this pleading and like worship and making excuses for these people. It's like, why are you making excuses for this person? They're supposed to be representing you. If they're not representing you, you should automatically be upset by that.
The psyops are getting worse too. Kit was kind of bringing this up. Like the longer you kind of stay in this space, like the more you realize like how like stupid and like fucking like
very low effort.
Really after 2020 was like when I started paying attention to like the governments of like other countries. I mean, like I'm actually like a dual European citizen, but I've never like really like cared until like Ukraine and shit like that. And you see like the governments of other countries compared to here. Anywhere. I mean, I was just in Croatia. I got antibiotics, like a doctor's appointment for $30.
Oh,
30
damn!
euros. I don't have insurance. That's just being a citizen, and that's not even good healthcare. That's not even good. That's not good healthcare.
No,
so,
no.
Like to even begin to understand countries like China or Norway, the Netherlands, like any of these places that like have any sort of like actual idea of like how to run civilization with like actual working infrastructure and like social systems that like actually benefit people in a way that like is not like how they say like communism, but like even just like basic shit like fucking healthcare.
Communism.
Like I just want to fucking see a doctor. Like everything's fucking communism, but like I just want to see a
it really is.
Can I just see a doctor?
I live in Chicago. I live in Chicago, and in this city, occasionally I hear Fox News or some conservative pundit or some conservative content creator saying Chicago's a socialist communist utopia. Please listen. Listen. I live in this. My family is 4 generations deep in this city. Okay, my great grandfather worked his butt off to make a living to support for his family. My grandfather, same way. My mom worked to provide. My great grandfather was actually a salesman. He was one of those door-to-door salesmen. And then my grandfather, he worked for Montgomery Wards. My mother worked for Neiman Marcus. And me,
What about during the Great Depression, like the 20s and 30s?
Being 20s and 30s. Well, they were still doing okay. It's just, I got a funny story for the Great Depression, but I don't know how much I can say. It's just, I know that during the Great Depression, my grandpa would talk stories about how when alcohol was illegal during Prohibition, he would. Oh boy. No. I had to pull him aside once and said, "Grandpa, what happened when you were a kid during the Great Depression during Prohibition?" Because we were watching a Ken Burns documentary about Prohibition, right? And it was one of those long documentaries. I think it was like a 3-hour documentary or something like that. We were watching it on the internet, and this was like the first time he really saw the internet. And he said, "Hey kid, can you pause?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he says, "I got a story to tell you." And I'm like, "Okay, Grandpa, what's going on?" He says, like, when I was a kid, I would deliver some moonshine and alcohol to everyone's houses, and I'd be paid, and then I would pay off the officer and give him a moonshine too. I was like, I turned to him and I said, "Grandpa, were you a mule?" He says, "What's a mule?" I says, like, "No, did somebody have you delivering alcohol across the area? You weren't going to get harassed or anything like that if you paid off the right people." It's like, "Well, no one really bothered me so long as I gave them money. It doesn't matter. And I had my own fair share of money in my pocket too." It's like, "No, Grandpa, you were not a mule. Come on." He's like, "Oh, it was a depression." And then he went on to say, "Hey, listen, if you're that sensitive," because my grandpa didn't have a filter. He said, "If you're that sensitive about it, did you know I used to pick up opioids and meth at the pharmacy?" He's like, "No, you didn't do that." I miss him to this day, but it was funny story. Anyways. Yes, bootleg. No, but he was a kid. He was a kid back in the day. It's funny. I love them to death, but they would even tell me about how they would have to get like meat and even coal from the train yards, man, back in the day. That's also stuff that they told me too, because there were days where, like, when it really got cold and really bad, they had to go there. It was like my grandpa and his brother. Crazy time back in the day.
We're gonna need to shape a new generation of men in order to survive this new. Because if we're being realistic, we're gonna have to go back to a lot of shit like that. A lot of pure survival instincts.
Hey, I'm seeing Dr. Nick in the chat. Yes, I miss him to this day, but but if it'll make you guys feel better, my grandpa did say, "Hey, listen, kid, don't worry. I would never put you through that." And I was like, "Okay, thanks for that, buddy." But it's like, because I think what caused him to laugh about it is like, it's already done. I'm alive and I'm right here, and look, you're here too, so that means I did okay. Which in theory, hey. He did it. He did his little moonshine hustle as a kid. But listen, folks,
that's how you
results.
did it.
Results will vary. Results will vary. Okay, and he didn't make the moonshine. He just delivered it. So
I actually have my grandmother. Speaking of grandparents, I have my grandmother to thank for correcting. She originally came from Ukraine. They immigrated, and she was the one who originally corrected me on a lot of the Red Scare propaganda I grew up on, because she essentially said everything the West is saying about the USSR is 100% bullshit. I'm like, really? She's like, yes. And then later on I discovered my dad's side of the family is from Norway, hence the beard. Okay. I don't know why that's relevant.
You're a Viking. You're a Viking,
Nordic.
dude.
You seem kind of like a Nordic Viking.
You're a Viking.
Usroda. And then the other side is half Scottish and half Ukrainian. So I grew up with the same propaganda about any other country. It's not just USSR. It's like any country that isn't completely cuckolded to America and its allies, right? You've got all this propaganda that they're scary and they're evil. She was the first one to be like, they're lying to you about this country. They're straight up lying to you. And then later on, because of what she told me, I looked up declassified. I'll encourage all of y'all to do this. Look up declassified CIA documents about the USSR. It will 100% completely change your mind about what we've been told about other countries. Also, do you guys remember growing up, like that narrative when we learned about World War II, that like America and its allies were like the saviors, like they're the ones that beat Hitler?
I do remember the propaganda. I remember seeing that stuff. It was like they turned World War II in a Saturday morning cartoon show. But the thing is, like, you know, it's a two-way fight. Okay, because we have to remember, you know, during the Second World War, it wasn't the Saturday morning cartoon show where there was a bad guy and a good guy. No, it was very complicated because at one point, Stalin and Hitler were allies. They were friends. They had an alliance. And when Hitler invaded the Soviet Union at the time, you know, there had to be a shift in policy. And were it not for the Soviets taking on the most elite of the Third Reich's military, things would be different. And it is rather fascinating seeing how there is propaganda. And the thing is, like, every country's guilty of propaganda. I think my favorite film for propaganda, I don't know if you guys seen this movie, but it was done during the height of Stalin. It was like the final movie during Stalin's regime. And it is pure gold. It is, if I could rift it, if I can get like a cast of people, if I had the budget to rift this movie, it is great. And it was made in the Soviet Union. And oh God, I can't even describe it. But the director who made it was so afraid of making this film because he was afraid of being iced by Stalin. And he was very careful in doing everything because he had to show the allies, like America and Great Britain, because this was his magnum opus. And he was so afraid to do this film because of, again, some of the rules from the party committees, because Stalin was really on top. So what happened was, so he makes this film. It's like, I think a 3 hour film. But he's the only person of his family who attended it with him was his young daughter. The rest of his family was at his house because just in case Stalin didn't like it, you know, they had up out of there. But there's a final scene in the movie. The Soviets invade, and somehow France is there, Great Britain is there, America, the prisoners from Auschwitz are there. Everybody's celebrating because Hitler's dead. And everyone's celebrating. Everyone's dancing. So everybody's there. And there's this huge airplane that flies into the sky. And it lands. And it's Stalin in the airplane. And he comes out and everyone's cheering. And the director of the film's keeping an eye on Stalin the whole time. Stalin pulls out a handkerchief, starts wiping away tears. And then everybody else who's like a diehard, like Stalin sycophant, is like, you know, wiping their tears, like they're doing the same thing too. And he's saying to his daughter, "We're safe, we're safe, we're safe, we're safe." After party comes. Stalin wants to speak to the director. Now he's afraid because you know, if you've seen the movie Death of Stalin, there's a little bit of humor, tongue in cheek there, but there are some things that went down there. But what's funny is, okay, they tell him like, you have to see Stalin alone. There's Stalin in this huge hallway by himself down at the very end. The director is slowly walking to Stalin, like, "Stalin, is everything okay?" Stalin turns around, tears in his eyes, says to him, "My boy, what a beautiful film. I wish I really landed in Germany." I mean, that is just pure gold there. But if you ever see, I forget the name of the title of the film, but it's just so great because you see propaganda films and we've seen them all, but this one was just the best propaganda movie of all time, where you're just like, I know this is propaganda, but I love it. It is just perfect. It's that old school propaganda pictures, especially from the 40s and 50s, real works of art. I mean, they don't make that anymore. And we got CNN giving us propaganda. It's pure crap. It's just nothing but meme and AI art.
Pretty much. Yeah. Just to provide a little bit of context, everybody, Stalin and Hitler, they were not formal allies. They had a pact called the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, and it was like basically a non-aggression pact. Like, we're not gonna, I won't fuck with you, you won't fuck with me. They all did. Yeah. And then that, like Kit said, was broken because Hitler was just like,
Yeah, he was
JK.
invading everybody. Yeah,
just like
which we funded. I mean, like if you could talk about General Ford and all of these and the Rockefellers and all these elite billionaires that had a direct hand in funding Hitler's military. Because if you watch the documentary, Everything's a Rich Man's Trick. Hitler doesn't just he. There's no way Hitler just comes out with a booming German economy with
General
all this military
Motors,
power.
Ford.
Yeah, it's all from the West. That's where it's coming
And then what
from.
happened? What happened after?
Yeah,
After
so you
World
funded
War II.
You fund a genocidal maniac, and then you see kind of things happen.
You just absorbed. That's the thing. America just absorbed the Nazis into its apparatus.
The thing is too. A lot of people, because a lot of people, when they think of the Second World War, like everyone was gung ho to fight against the Axis powers. It was a little more complicated because you have to remember the population saw what World War I did to its fighting men, and it led to a depression. And people didn't really know how to handle post-traumatic stress syndrome or to even talk about it because they just said, oh, well, he's a shell shocked. And it was an issue. And so many people did not want to get involved in another global war, save for until what happened at Pearl Harbor. And then Hitler and Mussolini at the day after, or I think 2 days after, declared war on the United States. Like this was something that, a lot of people weren't prepared for because there were a lot of business interests that wanted us to side with the Third Reich. Most notably, again, the greatest American hero, in my perspective, Smedley Butler, who warned the Roosevelt administration, hey, you got these business tycoons and these CEOs, they want to put me in as an equivalent to you. They want to do a coup. And what happened? Slap on the wrist for all those people who want to do a coup. And Smedley Butler got a pat on the shoulder. Good job, Smedley Butler. Good job. And he gave everyone the heads up, like, hey, this is wrong. This is illegal. Just air. Have you all heard the story about Coke about how Fanta got started?
No, I've never heard that.
Fanta.
got started? Okay.
Fanta.
No, Fanta. Fanta. Fanta.
I know Fanta. Yeah. Fanta.
Okay, so back in the day, before we got involved fighting, first name Adolf, last name Hitler. Coca-Cola would send its syrup and formula, overseas. And in the North African campaign, the members of the Luftwaffe would tie their little bottles up in the air, get them air cooled up there, and then they have some nice cool Coca-Cola. As soon as that formula ended, well, they had to make something nice and sweet for everybody to drink, and that's where Fanta comes in. So if you ever wonder why Volkswagen and Fanta never do "This Is How We Got Started" original trailer, it's because there's a little swastika that's involved in its little foundation. It's probably like a CEO.
Funny how that works for a lot of things, right? You just go back to the history tab on their Wikipedia page and just like, oh, there's some Nazis in here.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank goodness we've moved past genocide as a society.
Yeah, we did it.
It's so great. It's good.
We did it. Oh, wait. One other thing here. So on my show how I like to, I don't mean to talk too much because I'm having fun here. I'm having fun. I'm having fun too.
Go for it. It's fun.
Yesterday was a good day. Okay, I can't stress that out enough. But okay, so on my show how sometimes I say like, hey, who taught you how to do this? Who taught you to talk like this or anything like? Who taught you to be mean, right? So there's a reason why I do that because, and this is just a short down version of it. But during the Nuremberg trials, when the Allied lawyers and prosecutors were interrogating the German officers and government officials about the extermination camps, this is just a dumbed down short. But like, where did you learn? What would possess you guys to do this? One German officer in particular gave a response. Well, we learned it from you Americans and how you handle your Native American question.
Yeah.
We learned it from you, America. We learned it from you.
That's my favorite part. It's like,
we learned it from you.
That's the ultimate "are we the baddies" moment in history. Yeah. That's the ultimate, like, oh, damn. Well, that, man.
There hasn't really been, and then the more you look at it, the more you're like, there really hasn't been a redeemable moment in American history. The more you can like really, I can't really find one. Like even the best you can think of, like maybe like the New Deal or some shit like that. It's littered with like
here's a redeemable moment. The moments in which humanity don't follow along with the herd, but the moments of rare sparks of light that resonate to this very day, and that is the those that broke away from the crowd that could inspire others to do better. I think the problem is, and this is humanity in general, not just America. This is humanity's problem, and that is our inhumanity to each other. What we are seeing now, I'm going to have a quote that my great grandmother once said to me, and then even my grandfather said to me, and that is, what you are seeing now isn't new. I saw this before. It's just the first time for you. And so how we respond to these things, it's not the first time. It's just the first time for us. And I when we look at this crisis in Gaza and the genocide that's happening there, I think now I could say, okay, well, how would you react if you lived during the Second World War? And I think pretty much, a lot of people were powerless. A lot of people couldn't change things as much. We're able to talk about this more. So I think we're a step ahead. We have the internet, we have technology on our side, and we know it's wrong. But for the most part, for all these latte sipping liberals, we know how they would act. They booed. They booed those Palestinian protesters out. They kicked them out. So we know how a lot of people would react. We're seeing it now. We're assuming that this is new. This is not new. It's just how we respond to it is going to be different. It's our first time responding to it, and our actions and how we respond to it will resonate in the future in regards to how people will react to it when it happens to them. This is all a cycle of repeat. It's a rhythm and rhyme. And I like to think that maybe we're getting better because people are vocal and more speaking out about, like, hey, this isn't right, because it's in our face. We see it. But still, there's much to be improved upon, because we as a species, as a people, and that means all humans, we are professionals in fighting ourselves and hurting ourselves. And it's generational trauma, unfortunately.
Yeah,
that's the one thing we can't figure out. We have all this we have like high speed rail, and like we can literally fly now, but we can't figure out this monkey shit between us, where it's like we can't figure out any sort of like diplomatic terms. I mean, what I was like, I tell this to people who are like, are like getting a lot of anxiety about like our current times. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, this is like the end, like this is it, like the downfall of America.
It probably is.
I mean, yeah, we could look at it like that. I mean, if we look back, I mean, people were building like nuclear shelters back in the 60s. So it's not like things are like substantially like that. I mean, of course, it's like degraded over time, but it's not like bad things have never stopped happening. And they've always happened, and it's kind of like this is just like our time in like a timeline of things that are both good and bad, and you kind of have to just look at it in that time. Like you can't like see yourself like in a unique place where you're like, oh, this is the end of the world. This is like, oh, this is happening. This is happening. Bad shit's always been happening. So,
yeah. So in psychology, that's called catastrophizing, and it's basically when you look at a negative thing, and it creates what's called a cognitive oh god, here we go. Whatever, I'm fucking going for it.
It's all good.
It creates what's called a cognitive distortion. Don't worry, I tortured Kid with his shit all the time on his show. But it creates what's called a cognitive distortion, and that's when your thought goes from reality to a negatively distorted version of reality. And from there, it starts to snowball. So we've all done this before, everybody, where it's like, maybe you fucked up at work, or I don't know, maybe you drove your car into a tree. That's a bad example because that sucks. You fucked up at work. So instead of going, oh, I fucked up at work, I'll learn from this, I'll do better. It's like, oh my God, I fucked up at work. People are going to find out. Oh my God, like I'm going to get up for a review. Oh my God, I'm going to get fired. Oh my God, I'm going to get fired. I won't be able to pay my bills. I'll end up homeless. And of course, the end result of the thing to really blame in this whole situation is capitalism. But the problem is you're starting with a small negative thing, and by the end it becomes this like catastrophic event. And I mean, my point is, one thing I appreciate about Kit is he says on his show, like, he firmly believes that things will get better, and that's something I firmly believe too. And I look at history. I look at history for that, because fascism never did win. Okay, it always becomes a battle between, well, those people and my people. But again, I digress. We've had plenty of times before where this has happened. Like, humanity didn't end when Rome collapsed. What happened was new civilizations emerged. Like, Rome collapsed, and then they still figured out pizza, right? So can't be all bad.
Well, no. Here's the thing. When we look at the collapse of Rome,
still got pizza.
I mean, well, the thing is, when
Rome collapsed, we got pizza though.
Yeah, Chicago style pizza, the best kind there ever is, and there will be.
Not this.
But when we look at societal collapse, I mean, an empire is a violent phenomenon. I mean, an empire will consume and absorb its neighboring countries and make client states and nations into its secondary allies and all that other stuff. But all empires do collapse under their own weight, because they are designed to expand violently and then collapse from within. They cannot ever maintain themselves. And Rome, being this small city state, because that's how it got started, into this overall continental empire, it couldn't hold. And while there were attempts by some good emperors to maintain it, when you have political corruption and when you have institutional corruption of such a level, it will only lead to the rot. And that is what we are seeing now. And I think many people are in denial about what we're seeing. And our empire just won't collapse overnight. This is gradual. It'll happen over time. It's either it happens like what happened with the Western Empire, and that is it had a violent fall, or you get the slow, stagnant decline like the Eastern Roman Empire, and you end up like Byzantium, which, again, either option is terrible. I mean, there are always ways to avoid it, but it requires us as people and communities and citizens to see the bigger picture and realize that you just can't put the overall trust into leading authorities or have a political ruling class. You just can't trust the ruling class to have your best interest, because eventually, once you isolate them, they're going to think that they're better than you and on top of an ivory tower, until that ivory tower collapses and you see their opulence and wealth and overall obesity.
Do you think at the end of Rome,
you threw in obesity at the end?
Well, no, because
degeneracy too. That's like sexual degeneracy too is an aspect of a falling empire. We should actually We should do a segment on that one day. Actually, one day, like how the sexual degeneracy is that's like a prime aspect of like that happened in Rome too. You can see it in France as well.
Well, again, not to go on a psych bend here. It's okay if you guys just want to kick me from here, but no. That's a prime aspect of psychopathy, and my personal theory is that the reason is that.
Oh, I think he might have frozen.
So just froze. Oh,
CIA and FBI and NSA, those bastards.
That's what it is. The intelligence.
That's who did it.
Snow, if it gets bad, just leave and come back, I guess. But I wanted to ask, actually, do you think that at the end of Rome that they had like a Bernie Sanders politician, where like?
Well, here's what I think happened at the end of the Roman Empire. Well, like wait, which one? East or West? Because you do have your stories about the final days, because there was Majoran, for example, who was like and again, we got to be careful, because it's easy for us to look at these people of antiquity like Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar, and again, Alexander was not a Roman, he was a Macedonian, but I'm bringing them up because we could look at them as being great, but in our day and age, we would view them as war criminals and tyrants. But in antiquity, they were viewed as heroes and leaders. So I think if we were looking at like maybe a Bernie Sanders person, you probably had some Roman counselors or some Roman senators or generals saying, "We will make Rome great again," or "We will lead the legions to victory."
They
again.
had a Trump. Maybe Rome had a Trump.
Maybe, but you also probably might have had some senators too trying to keep the masses amused by the Colosseum or games, or just overall just distracting them from what's happening. But people knew. You know,
I wonder if like fake populism existed. Like
it did. Yes, it did. Oh, yes, it did. They were the people of antiquity were probably the people of antiquity. Sorry, why did I stutter there? Were just like us. The only thing they lacked was the technology we have now. I find it appalling when people look back and say, "Oh, well, the people back then were stupid." If they were so stupid, why are you here now? We are their descendants, after all. We are the ones that carry on their legacy. So they knew about corruption. They knew about scams. They knew about abuse of power. They knew. They didn't have what we have. We have a luxury now. We have an abundance of luxury. So they knew. And the thing is, we've seen an equivalent to it. If you ever watch the original Star Trek, you know, in the original series and in Next Generation, like when they have episodes where they go back in time to like Earth, like, you know, in the 90s or something, what do they say about us? Oh, these people were primitive. They might be violent. They might be this or that. People in the future will look at us like barbarians too. People in the future will look at us as monsters or ignoramuses. They could, and they will, because we've done it in the past. They weren't stupid. They knew. And the problems that we're facing now, the people of antiquity dealt with them. If you ever, I'll recommend this channel, not Age of Empires, Fall of Civilization podcast. Listen to the stories, listen to the documentaries, and you'll realizing everything is shockingly familiar to what we're dealing with now. The only difference is they didn't have the technology we have, but the story is the same. When you listen to the Bronze Age collapse documentary, it sounds just like our economy. It sounds like what we're dealing with. It's just there were just some slight differences, but they were just like us. There's again differences with culture and how people view things living in that life, but they knew. They weren't dumb. They knew.
No, for sure. Do we want to get into this article?
Yeah, we should get into this before we. I don't want to keep getting here for like 2 hours. So
yeah, I can stay for another 20 minutes. I can stay for another 20 minutes.
Okay,
I promise.
Okay. So this is the first time I'm seeing Bernie Sanders speak on this in this level of detail. I've only seen him say like, "Oh yeah, Pete won," or like I've never seen him speak to like this level of like DNC insider shit. And Theo, like, I don't think he knows much about a lot of this. I mean, I think he was paying attention, but like pay attention to like what he's asking him. Is he asking him like, well, did you get like a phone call or anything? Like, did you know like what was going on? But I do want to point something out in the first 5 seconds.
Right now,
well, she is.
Do you think that Kamala Harris is the best person to run against Donald Trump right now?
Well, she is the person, and that
won't change.
Immediately, Bernie has zero confidence in Kamala either. He's just like, the question was pointed. Do you think Kamala can beat Trump? And he's like, well, she's the nominee. I mean,
that was so stupid.
You can't say no.
Well, the thing is,
you might as well just. You might as well just been like. You might as well have just been like, well, I gotta ask my my wife's boyfriend that question, and maybe he'll give me an answer.
Well, because again, when we played a video, he's gonna mention like, oh, she's tough. I faced her off in debate. Bernie, I saw how Tulsi handled her not once but twice. Kamala was a fish out of water. She wasn't tough. I mean, Bernie, literally, I know they got a sniper to your head, but would it kill you to finally tell the truth after so many years? Would it kill you to tell the truth that Kamala's an idiot? Because sooner or later, that's going to come out there. Sooner or later, people are going to see like, oh, wow, this Kamala person's an idiot. How is she a U.S. senator again?
Kidding. I'm curious to know why he's talking about this now. I want to know why this is the first time he's speaking about this. Because honestly, like this for me, seeing this, given like whatever money I gave him, and I can't say like I gave like so much energy. I was like working in college at the time, but like this confirms for me that like the whole thing was just like the whole thing from the start was just like a rap. It was just like, oh yeah, I'm not actually here for anything. This is just like a fake front or like a revolution brand
change problem.
But just this is incredible. This clip really like gets under like makes my skin crawl. I'm serious.
Probably, huh?
She'll be the Democratic candidate, and you know I've known Kamala for a number of years. Not best friends, but I've known her.
Mm-hmm.
She was in the Senate for a short period. She's very smart, and she's determined. I mean, above and beyond her views on the issues, which I support most of them, not all. You got to give.
Did you hear what he just said for a second? So like, he said, she's on the issues. I support most of them, but not all.
Which I support most of them, not all. On the issues, which I support most of them, not all.
Which kind of issues are those? Are those marijuana violations for Black people in the state of California, or truancy, locking up parents? Which one is that? Is that the genocide in Gaza? Which one? Which one of those issues what is the most of the issues that Bernie and Kamala agree with? I would like to know.
Don't forget also withholding prisoners who were firefighters, because under Kamala's tenure, they still could, if these prisoners got out of jail as soon as they were done with their service being firefighters, they could not apply to actually become firefighters themselves. That recent reversal only happened recently, I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago, because it didn't happen under Kamala's watch. And she made it her benefit to keep prisoners behind bars longer, and also withhold evidence.
Use them as slave labor.
Yep, use them as slave labor. But it's okay, guys. This is her moment, according to Time Magazine.
But
her moment. Her moment. So stop being mean, you awful men.
Her moment too. I'm with her, Boogaloo.
K-Hive all the way. K-Hive.
You got to give credit to somebody, a Black woman, to move up the ladder. That ain't easy stuff. There's a lot of resistance to that. And she's persistent.
A black woman.
Look,
she's strong.
Theo,
and I respect that.
You got to understand.
I think she'll be a good candidate. I was interested that Trump apparently backed out of a debate with her on ABC. And I wouldn't, I have debated her, as a matter of fact. She's tough.
She's tough. Was there a chance that you were going to get that nominee, or as an independent, can you get then plotted with the Democratic Party and put in? No. Was there even a call about it or anything?
No. I ran in 2016. I ran against Hillary Clinton, and I ran in 2020.
Yeah, I remember, and I felt like you didn't get treated fairly, to be honest with you.
I didn't, and that's what happens when you take on the establishments. Yeah. What happened is we won the first 3 primaries, and then the establishment got very, very nervous, and they got a whole lot of candidates in the Democratic primary. And they said, hey, it'd be a good idea if you all dropped out, let Joe Biden be the one candidate. People rallied around him.
And do they call? Is there a call that you get, and it's like you're not going to move forward? Is it just like news articles? Like how does the establishment?
Well, what happens is I won the popular vote in Iowa.
So he's not going to answer that question, but we all remember who that call came from. We know it was Obama that came down, dropped the call. I remember this distinctly. Got Elizabeth Warren to drop out. They just handed it to Pete. It was the sketchiest thing, and we all remember it was Obama. So we're talking the establishment, but
I won the New Hampshire primary. I won the Nevada primary, and those were the first 3. And then
he's not going to answer this question, by the way. He said Theo asked him, "Who is there like a call or anything?" And I would like to know the answer to that question as well, but he's not going to answer.
Is there a call that you get and it's like you're not going to move forward? Is it just like news articles? Like how does the establishment
what happens
work?
is I won the popular vote in Iowa. I won the New Hampshire primary. I won the Nevada primary, and those were the first three. And then front pages of the New York Times, Democrat establishment very nervous. Bernie Sanders could win the whole. We were doing very well in the polls. And, I think behind the scenes, people thought, there were like 15 different candidates. And they were splitting up the vote. And that's how I was not necessarily getting over 50%. I was getting more than other people. So I was on the way to victory. And they said, look, Bernie shouldn't be the candidate for a variety of reasons. We don't want him the candidate. Drop out. And then on one day, one or 2 days, a lot of people dropped out. It was Joe Biden and me, and Joe had a lot of support, and all these people came behind him, and that's what happened. Let me also say, having said that, Biden is a friend of mine. I think he has done a very good job over the last 3.5 years, and I'm working very hard to see that Kamala is elected our next president.
Yeah, when I think about good job, I think about how much money has this guy that's a good friend of mine given to blowing up innocent children overseas. That's what I think of when I think of like he's done a really good job. Or how many people are defaulting on their mortgages or in crippling debt or homeless or dying because they can't afford health care. That's what I think. You know what?
Can we talk about the fact that this guy in less than 3 minutes,
Zen.
This man managed to talk about how the same guy who cooed him is a good friend of mine. Who literally he talks about Democratic elites conspiring to coalesce and throw him out of the race, and he's calling the person who cooed him out of the 2020 race a good friend and hopes that they win again.
Joe's a good friend of mine.
What kind of cuckoldry are we at here? Like what level? This is not even.
Greg,
I feel like we're not even like in jerking off in the corner, like while you're watching your wife getting.
Listen, Greg. Listen, Greg. Listen, Greg.
We're this is a whole different level of cuckoldry. Like
listen, Greg.
Slavery.
You need to understand. All 4 of my wife's boyfriends love that man.
They're swingers. I think they share wives. I think they.
I personally, I think, folks. I think the answer is a little bit of might be a little more simpler than we might expect. I think Bernie might have been a guy saying a good thing, running a good game, and realized that people were going to buy his scam, and he was trying to find a way out of it. I think he was trying to build a name for himself, get some money, do some short-term goals. Because look, all these politicians,
I think
they think about their careers 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years down the road. And Bernie probably never expected to have such a huge momentum of people supporting him. Because if you're a politician and you're filling up stadiums and you're shutting down half of New York City and you're getting millions of people watching you go live on a content creator going live on your live stream, you have power. He was given it, and he was trying to find a way out, the coward's way out. He was given a chance to be a main character, and he threw it all away because he didn't believe in his message or himself.
I think it was
This is a bit of a no. This is Greg. That's cope. That's cope. That's absolute cope. Here's the thing. I'm gonna give a spicy. I'm gonna give a bit of a spicy hot take here. I think there is no difference between Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump as figures. I think they both sold a large group of disaffected people a message that they feel would sell to that group of disaffected people. And then when they were finally given the shot, they didn't deliver. I don't think there's any difference between either of those two people. They were just appealing to different people at different points of time. And I feel like there's nothing but evidence to support that. Okay? If Donald Trump's a snake oil salesman, I think it's equally as as understandable or feasible that Bernie was just a snake oil salesman as well. I know that hurts, and it may make a lot of people, a little heartbroken. But
I will make one argument. I will say that Bernie has more of a history in the Senate where he's been he's never been great. Like, he's been consistent. That's the thing. Like, people knew who he was. And Trump was kind of like a mystery character who, like, kind of no one people like knew what they were betting on, but like he was saying the right things at the time. But he has no political history. Bernie actually had a political history that they could back on, and we actually had momentum that people thought he was going to win. No one thought that Trump was going to win, but in 2016. But like Bernie, like there was genuine momentum, and there was the idea that if we actually had like an actual democracy, like they say, then we might have. And at this point, like I don't think even if Bernie was elected president, I don't think that he would even be like that great on the issues. I think there would probably be some selling out there, given his character, like that we know now. But I don't know. I don't know. It'd be nice to like get inside the mind of like what's going on here, because this is a complete failure of a candidate. This feels like leasing a car that like stalls every 5 minutes. What's the point? There's no point.
It's okay. Like here's some hopium. Here's like a consolation, I guess. Some hopium. Let's have a little bit of hopium.
Opium.
Would you rather have him just cuck himself to the point where even his 26 wife's boyfriends are disappointed, or would you want him to actually win and then break your hearts as he proceeds to do all of the bidding of empire? Because as the president, he doesn't have a fucking choice. We've never seen anything to the contrary.
I have wrestled with this question, and I've come down to the conclusion. I'm rather glad that Bernie Sanders never set a foot in the White House. I'm glad he never had a victory in 2016, 2020, and I'm more or less glad that he has made himself irrelevant because, because early on, we used to get a lot of hate from some Trump supporters and conservatives back in the day. And the thing is, like, a lot of them were saying to me, obviously antagonizing, like, Bernie Sanders isn't who he says he is. Bernie Sanders is a liar and all this. And the thing is, as time progressed, turns out, like, not to the extent to which they were describing it, but Bernie Sanders never had that heart or that dog in him to actually be a consistent fighter. So I'd rather see him get cucked and embarrassed than see a man sit in the White House and ruin the progressive movement, because maybe it's a good thing that we are seeing Bernie Sanders like this and not in the White House where we would get disappointed, because the establishment wasn't going to let him get away with that. No,
I think he's already done like a lot of damage. Let's be real. I don't think there's
control damage
in America.
Control damage.
Who's done more damage to the working class than this man?
Because look at it. Look at all around you. Look at all of these. Tim Pool's a perfect example. Tim Pool used to be a fucking Bernie bro. Look at him now.
Yeah, he's broke. Wasn't he with Vice? Wasn't he with Vice or something back in the day?
I don't remember, but I remember he was a Bernie bro. And now he's sitting here talking about price gouging as communism. How fucked up did that man's brain get because of Bernie's fuck shittery or shit fuckery? I'm not sure.
Dude, I know people in real life who made that transition. I know people.
Yeah, there were so many people, so many conservatives, so many right wingers right now were Bernie bros, and they just turned completely away from it.
I can name like 2 or 3 people in my personal life who I just know acquaintances who were Bernie bros who voted for Trump. So that's
Yeah, because the difference here's the similarities.
It was a fuck you vote. It was a fuck you vote.
Yes, because this was okay. It was 2 shades of revolutionary fervor versus reactionary fervor. These are people who are hungry for change, so they didn't get it out of Bernie. So they're like, you know what? I'm voting for Trump then, because something has to change. Someone's got to do something, because we can't keep going down this road. We're done. The problem was people, they fell for it both times. because this is what the establishment does.
Yeah.
People like Bernie. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again because I'm a repetitive fuck. But people like Bernie are just there to give the illusion that someone in government is thinking of you. They're just there to keep you out of the streets. Not literally, because you can't make rent, because thanks, Biden. But, they're just there to keep you out of the streets. They're there to keep you from actively revolting against your government and create the illusion that someone's fighting for you. Someone in there cares about you a little bit. Up here in Canada, we got a whole party. It's called the NDP. They do the same thing. They're there to pretend that somebody gives a shit about you. Nobody cares about the working class under a dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. Under a dictatorship of billionaire capital, nobody cares about the fucking working class. They just have charlatans like him and an AOC who LARP a good game, but at the end of the day, this is where it goes every time. Every time.
Well, and the thing is, we have to be careful for the next time it could happen, because with the amount of people suffering, I mean, let's face it, the dark web has all of our social security numbers. We have corrupt politicians, and it's just leading to an environment where another potential Bernie Sanders person could rise up. And to which I have to say, okay, are they consistent? This is where we have to have our ability to think critically. This is where we have to have our ability to look at people. And in this video, we see Bernie Sanders publicly admitting for the whole world he got cheated and he didn't do shit. He didn't confront the guy and fight him who was banging his wife. Again, I'm using a metaphor.
He's friends with him.
Yeah, he's friends with him.
I watched. I enjoyed it.
Or either that Bernie tried and he just doesn't have that dog in him to continue a fight. So it's like you have horrible options for your main fighter, whereas if you are a disconnected voter, you're on cloud nine. And I know for this election cycle, I'm going to be fine. I am not going to cry in the corner and be like, oh no, woe is me, my candidate lost. Well, who cares? No one cares. No one cares, because you don't make the policy decisions in Washington, D.C. And Bernie probably knows this, which is why he didn't fight, because he probably didn't want to deal with Goldman Sachs or, Vanguard or BlackRock. He didn't want to deal with the corporations that own our government, because we have the Supreme Court that legalized bribery.
What if here's the theory?
The Congress doesn't actually make laws. The Supreme Court does.
Yeah. What if Bernie Sanders is just? What if he's just black-pilled? I've thought about this too. What if he realized at some point in time that it was just hopeless, that he would never that's what I'm saying.
Maybe someone put a gun to his head or something. I don't know.
Or he just realized even if I get into office,
you don't think the CIA
I'm never going to be able to get anything done.
I think
he was a charlatan. I don't think he was sincere. I don't think Obama was sincere either. I think people who are like, they got into office and then suddenly the CIA was like, we'll kill you. No, I think these people are fucking con men. Because here's the thing: if he weren't, then why is he still plugged into this party? Why is he running independent? Do you not think Bernie Sanders as an independent or third party, Bernie Sanders hops on board the Green Party or some other party? You don't think he would be a serious contender? Yeah, absolutely would be.
I would also.
But he's not.
I'd also add on here too, with Bernie, being disengaged. It's also the point of he's looking at the environment. How much does he want to really, shake things up? Because he's also afraid of his legacy. He never wanted to be seen as Ralph Nader, especially in 2016 and in 2020. He didn't want to be seen as Ralph Nader. He didn't want to be holding on to the cross of it's because of me that Trump is in office and dictator for life. So Bernie Sanders is trying to isolate himself. So it's the easiest, the most easiest answer is just he probably never cared about it in the first place. And I think he's been trying to look for a way out with still keeping his dignity and revolutionary spirit intact. But I think he's got a lot of regrets in how this whole thing played out for him. He doesn't have a leg to stand on, and he has systematically put himself in a position to where people still view him as a savior.
He's going to vote for Trump in November. Mark my words.
That'd be funny. That'd be funny, especially after after all the stuff surrounding Trump.
Now that Biden, now that Biden isn't any longer in the race, and I can't watch him in the corner with my wife.
But he was backing demented Biden. He was backing demented Biden before he dropped out. Like right before he dropped out, he was sticking him until the very end. To the very end, he fought for this guy, and he's the same guy that moved him out of
guys,
race.
I'm just gonna remind everybody, to people who still have a little bit of hope for Bernie, this guy is still supporting and saying Joe Biden is doing a good job while he is currently
with a straight face
sending money overseas to the horror that is making us all cry and sometimes throw up when we see the horrific carnage overseas. He's saying good job. So I'm sorry.
I saw a shredded body of meat today.
Me too. Flesh. I saw the same one.
I think we've all seen the imagery. And look, folks, here's the thing too, because the thing is, especially on this show, we gotta let our audience know. The images and videos are very real, and yes, if you work hard enough, you could find them. They're easy to find. But I would say to people, remember that those were humans in those photos and videos too. And sometimes, we have to look at, okay, well, why is this happening? Because we're witnessing people dying, and it's because of the indifference of our politicians. And what's fueling these politicians to be indifferent is our own indifference, our own inability of seeing these people for who they are. Bernie never had the fight in him, and I have to come to terms with that, because I respected him. I would be more than happy to follow him, but he, being a politician, is only thinking about his best interests. Bernie Sanders can be selfish, and also he's been on the wrong side. So I would say to people, don't fall for the hype and the romance of a politician. It will hurt you. And I've learned this lesson a few times, especially starting off as Hard Lens Media. The best option is none of the above. It's you. You have to make that difference.
Yeah.
He's kind of like RFK in that way. Like he has this sickening attachment to the Democratic Party. Like if there's some kind of classic, which I don't think there's ever been like a good endorsement of the Democratic Party at any point in history. I mean, they constantly point out FDR, and even he wasn't that great.
No, FDR had his own problems. I mean, FDR put U.S. citizens, Japanese citizens, in internment camps.
Mm-hmm.
Go see, and these were U.S. citizens, not citizens of the Empire of Japan, but Americans. Some of them from the country, and others born in this country. So everybody, the political worship must be dismissed. The political love must be dismissed, and you must dismiss what Hollywood and corporate media will present to you, because they want to say, oh, look at him, look at her, aren't they lovely? They do all these things. It is a way for control, and for too long, we have not been in control, and we have to we have to take the power. We have to be in control.
You got to take the power back.
Exactly. Now, gentlemen, I do have to head out because I do have to prep up for tomorrow's show, and I got Saturday, Sunday, and then prepping up for the DNC convention here in Chicago. So I don't want to cut this short. I would like to come back on, maybe not next week because it's gonna be crazy, but let's schedule to have me back on again, because I definitely want to hang out with you guys. You guys are freaking awesome.
Yeah, this is a fun.
Yeah, this is just fun. We didn't get to a lot of content, but it doesn't matter because it was
I'm sorry. Was I ranting too much?
It's good.
You got to tell me to shut up. Shut up.
We have
shut
up. Me and Himbo totally forget and go completely off track of what we're talking about all the time.
Mm-hmm. So well, everybody needs to hit the like button right now. Everybody needs to hit the like button and share this live stream, or else.
Check out Lens as well if you don't. I mean, obviously, exactly. I think a lot of people.
Yeah, that's the place to start your day. What?
at 9 a.m. Central on YouTube, Rumble, Rockfin, Odyssey, and Kick. Start your morning bright and righteously angry. So pour some whiskey in your coffee, grab yourself a mimosa, smoke a bowl, do some shrooms, chill to cocoa leaves, whatever you need to do to get you through the Friday morning, because old Kit Kat's going to be working twice a day. So please, folks, send a little prayer to the God Emperor of mankind, because we're burning on both ends of the candle. So wish me all the best. But folks, you guys were awesome. Please send me back an invite. I want to be back on here properly, so I don't have to cut this short. I want to be on for the whole show next time, okay?
For sure, man. Thank you for your service, Knight Commander.
Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Always, man. Hey, keep kicking ass, and share any tweets with me, and that way I could share that with you, with my people too, because you guys are awesome. So much love to you folks, and now I got to get back to work because it's never an easy day for old Kit Kat.
All right. Have a good night, buddy.
Thanks for calling out, kid. That was awesome. Yeah,
that was the venerable Kit Cabello.
Kit's going on for full hour, man. You know, Kit's always a great time. It's a lot of fun.
Man, we just blew through all this content, eh?
Yeah, we still got to go. Which is like,
it's all good. I gotta piss real quick. Sorry, guys. It's real bad.
I'll
say I identify as diabetes. 1 sec.
Okay. Let's throw this on. Where are we? So speaking of a candidate with a very sickening attachment to the Democratic Party, and also seems to not really be so independent as he kind of like establishes himself as. It seems like this dark horse is not really so dark after all. Seems like he's more like trying to be part of the herd.
Jr. is not denying reports that he tried to meet with the Vice President, Kamala Harris, to discuss throwing his support behind her campaign in exchange for a spot in her potential administration. That didn't happen, as Harris's team reportedly hasn't responded at all. Now, as those reports came out, here's how RFK Jr. responded. A lengthy social media post in which he denounced the Democratic Party. He ended by saying he has no plans to endorse Harris and still thinks that he can beat her. So what about this idea of the top Democrat potentially shunning RFK Jr.? Smart or not? Let me take you through some of the numbers here and where everything stands. All right, so there's two races here, right? Or at least two races that we know of. The one that happened in July, Biden, Trump, RFK Jr., right? And here's what you should know. Donald Trump is at 44. Let's go to August. Where's Donald Trump right now? At 44. Okay, let me swing you back to the July. Here's the Democrat, Joe Biden. He was at 40. What happened now? Kamala Harris at 48. This is an Emerson College poll, by the way. So where's she gaining from? It seems like some of the support from RFK Jr. is going to her, because now he's down at 4%. All right. So
I think that's fake. I think that's a lot of it. But
listen,
it's clear
guys.
that RFK is on the verge of dropping out. I'm calling it. It's within the next 3 months, for sure. Obviously.
Yeah, I definitely think he's not gonna go through till the end. But to anyone who's like, oh my God, these polls, I listen to the Vanguard and this makes my pee-pee feel good. I just want to remind you that all the polls had Hillary up super high, and then she took the biggest L known to man
in the universe.
Yeah. And she still hasn't recovered from it almost 10 years later. So these polls are meaningless.
The only reason we need to pay attention to this shit is because, unfortunately, America's foreign policy affects the rest of the world, and we have to deal with the consequences of that shit. So
yeah,
it doesn't matter to like what extent like we're dealing with here. But
so you're wondering, and it's been one of the questions that we've talked about for quite some time. RFK Jr. voters, at the end of the day, if they're saying now that they're going to vote for him but don't, where could they go? Of course, this percent of them, 39, support him now. The same exact number for Kamala Harris. So that's part.
So I'm trying to find the the original article of RFK Jr. meeting Kamala for a job. So here's here, I'll just pull up the Guardian. RFK Jr., the beleaguered independent presidential candidate, reached out to the Kamala Harris campaign last week to discuss dropping out of the race and endorsing an exchange for endorsement. So Kennedy attempted to set up the meeting. As several outlets reported, the Harris team just didn't respond at all. His long shot campaign is floundering at this point. He just showered. He's apologized for his sexual assault. He's been, that's beyond the whatever the brainworm shit. But he took to Twitter, and he's denying the whole thing. This is a flailing man. I just wanted to point this out because this is pure denial mode. He tweeted this out maybe a couple hours as soon as this morning. VP Harris's Democratic Party would be unrecognizable to my father and the uncle that I cannot reconcile with my values. The Democratic Party of RFK and JFK was the party of civil liberties and free speech. VP Harris is the party of censorship, lockdowns, and medical coercion, not according to a lot of reports. Kennedy's Democrats were anti-war. Kamala is riddled with neocon warmongers, which is interesting. That's an interesting thing to point out because they agree on all of the wars besides one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine. They agree on all the wars. He talks about Taiwan and he talks about Palestine. Obviously, he's a huge fucking Zionist shill, which was like the biggest kind of like red flag that everyone kind of saw. Me and Chris actually pointed out back in the day, like from the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, not the Zionist part, but the fact that he was like very when he was talking about foreign policy, like even when he announced that he was running, he was talking about foreign policy in this way that like America like served like a duty to like really protect the world as like this kind of like world police kind of situation, which we already have going on now, which obviously is not going so well. So it's just like the language and like the beliefs of these people. I mean, RFK is very much attached to like this old mentality. It seems like the RFK.
I'm gonna go on record by saying that I always thought he was a stupid fucking dumbass who had stupid fucking dumbass disease.
I thought it was a stupid dumbass.
I never bought this. I liked what he was saying for some of the COVID stuff, but I didn't buy it. Just because
too. The Ukraine, he spoke about the coup and he knew his stuff.
Yeah, but even then, it was just like, bro, you have to be consistent on your positions. And I feel like with a lot of people, it's like Ukraine's the easy, that's the low-hanging fruit. But are you going to bring that fervor for every imperialist movement, every imperialist associated action? And yes, the genocide in Gaza is 100% another imperialist movement. Do not ever think otherwise. It's the same shit. We are still watching the highest form of capitalism in real time.
Yeah, it's all, I mean, colonialism, imperialism that's present like all throughout the world. I mean, that's why you see in pretty much every single continent. We're talking about Africa, Europe. It's happening everywhere. Mm-hmm. We talk about this shit because the consequences of a United States leader affects the rest of the world. Because, granted, himbos from Canada, they're not so great either. I mean, I'm from Croatia, they're not so great either. The EU's not great, but granted, we're dealing with the consequences of whatever the fuck America wants to do, and
like
frankly,
I've said,
that's not working. That's not working so much anymore.
Like I've said, America is the 400-pound gorilla stomping around the fucking planet. That's why everybody knows American politics, because they affect the whole fucking world. Nobody knows Canadian politics. That's why I made a show to educate people. You know why? Because we're not a 400-pound gorilla that's running around blowing up everybody and starting shit and causing immense, unbelievable damage to other countries. We're helping, though. We are helping. And if you tune into the next episode of the
Democracy.
Maple Files,
We're spreading democracy.
We're just... America's just doing the freedom stuff, guys.
We're just being
That's
the
it.
freedom guys. We're the freedom guys. Chill. RFK and JFK Dems were allies of Main Street, cops, firefighters, and working people. Okay. VP's Harris is the party of big tech, big pharma, and Wall Street. My dad and uncle's party was the champion of voting rights and fair election. VP Harris is the party of lawfare, disenfranchisement, and the coordination of candidates by corporate donors and party elites. I've used our nation's courts to prosecute corporations who hurt black Americans. And VP Harris has been prosecuting black Americans who exploit them from the labor. I'm also looking for RFK Jr. Because this is not the first time he's met with a party to try to get a job within the establishment. My father and uncle prided themselves on their skills at a debate with their ability to articulate a coherent vision for our country. VP Harris is scared to debate and can't survive an unscripted interview. Instead of outlining a vision, she relies on middle school tactics, memes, forged headlines, and infantile slogans, and name calling. I spent years battling government corruption and lies. VP Harris spent years gaslighting Americans about the health of our commander-in-chief. And I have no plans to endorse Kamala Harris. Well, I mean, maybe if he got a job, he would have. But not too long ago, RFK voted talks with Trump for a job just a couple weeks ago. This man is begging. He's begging to be a part of the big club. He wants to be in the big club. And it's just interesting.
The problem is...
Where's Lori Spencer?
Here's the problem.
Where's Lori Spencer on all of this? I just want to know.
Last I heard, and if there's anyone who's more up to speed on Lori Spencer, feel free to correct me. But last I heard, she kind of broke from RFK after the sexual assault allegations. Let me look her up though. Maybe she's still shilling. I don't know.
Is that with the nanny one?
I think so. Let's see. President Trump. Oh shit. I think. Oh my God. I think Lori switched to Trump. It looks like she switched to Trump. Yeah, she's shitting on RFK now, and she's switched to Trump. I think that's what I'm just looking at her timeline. I could be mistaken.
I mean, if we're talking, for anyone's reference, this is what he had to say about the sexual assault allegation that happened last month.
I've said this from the beginning. I am not a church boy. I am not running like that. I said I had a very, very rambunctious youth. I said in my announcement speech that I have so many skeletons in my closet that if they could all vote, I could run for king of the world.
You're talking there about the nanny situation. I mean, I do have to ask her. I mean, are you denying it or not?
I'm not going to.
I gotta get. I'm sorry for all the shit that people talk about breaking points. I gotta give Sagar credit for that. That was very good journalism what he did there, because he literally he didn't let the dude just he didn't
let him go
walk around. He was like, sorry, I have to ask, are you denying it or not? Like, he put him on the spot of answer the fucking question. That was good. That was a rare Sagar W. I don't like him shitting on Europeans though. It's not cool. Even though they suck. What are you looking for, by the way? Are you looking for him seeking a meeting in the Harris cabinet?
No.
Okay.
I mean, if we're going to talk about RFK and sexual assault, you got to bring this one up.
New Yorkers come from everywhere. The best people from all over the country in every walk of life gravitate towards New York. We've produced the leaders that have articulated a vision for America of a community of all kinds of different people who go together because we share a value. It is against everything we stand for as a state to say that you can't participate in public life in this state because you weren't born here. We should be proud in our state that we've gotten somebody of the quality and the timber and the character of Hillary Clinton.
I'll be there for you. When the rain starts to pour, I'll be there for you. Like I've been there before. I'll be there for you. 'Cause I'm there
for you too. I think he's been trying to get in the big club this whole time. I honestly do.
He's kind of been in the big club, guys. He's been in the big club.
He's been in it, but I think he's probably vying for supremacy. Either way, this whole notion that this man is anything other than a wrecker, which is what he is. That's what he's supposed to do. That's his purpose. He's supposed to take all those people who aren't plugged completely into the DNC or plugged completely into the RNC. Supposed to take those people and redirect them. Because you guys can shit on me for this, okay? But I'm gonna agree with Crab here. I'm gonna make a wager that before the election, he is going to endorse one of these two shitstorms of candidates. He will. He's not going to stay in this till the end. For what? The memes?
Definitely not. And it's going to happen soon, like in a month. I think within the next month, I think he's going to drop out.
Who do you think he's going to endorse?
Probably, maybe Trump.
I'm going to go with Kamala.
You think he's going to go with Kamala? He is a Democrat after all. Yeah, he's in the Democrat position, I think, yeah.
I don't think he can break. He's
Dr. Nick says 6 weeks.
6 weeks, okay.
I can go
Dr. Nick will go with that.
We're going with 6 weeks. We're gonna roll with 6 weeks. But then 6 weeks. You
just
heard
2
it
more
here
weeks,
first.
Grab.
You heard it here first. Within 6 weeks, RFK Jr. Clip this. Go ahead, clip this. RFK Jr. within the next 6 weeks. Today is August 15th. Within the next 6 weeks, RFK Jr. will drop out and endorse Kamala Harris.
And on the same day, Joe Biden's going to die. No, that's not part of it. But here's the thing.
Hope that happens. I hope that happens. That's so funny.
No. Okay. So I think the Democratic Party to RFK is essentially like an ex-girlfriend that a dude just can't get over no matter what. They've tried everything and they just can't. They can't quit him. I think at the end of the day, if it comes down to like supporting Zion Dawn or supporting the Democratic Party, I think he's going to throw in with the Democratic Party. Because, like, the fact that he's still this horny for the Dems and not just completely abandon the party. He thinks really like, oh, we might be able to change it, to reform it. The fact that he hasn't completely ran away from this completely makes me think that, and I'm just taking him at face value. I'm not taking him at, like he might be some kind of psyop, because he doesn't have CIA connections or anything.
Yeah, with all the Epstein stuff.
Definitely going on there. He's just talking about the CIA being base. It's fine.
It's okay.
Let's pretend he isn't a fucking psyop. We're politically homeless, okay? We go hard in the paint. That's why this show's here for you. Let's pretend he isn't a psyop. This dude he's got some kind of hang up. He's hung up on the Democratic Party. So when it comes down to it, when push comes to shove, I think within that time, he's going to endorse the Dems. And who knows? He might actually be like, I hope they listen to me, or I hope they give me a position there, or some kind of weird, like, I'm going to try and push the party in the right direction sort of thing. I think that's what he's going to go with. I don't see him endorsing Trump. I could take an L here, but I just, even with that weird phone call they had together, I don't see him breaking from the Dems. I just don't. He's got some weird, like, I don't know. He's got a donkey fetish.
I mean, that's kind of where the Epsteins are at as well. So I mean,
yeah.
I'm gonna try to throw up a poll. If this doesn't work in Safari, I'm just gonna not bother. But
well, your first mistake is buying an Apple product. You should never do that.
I need it for Adobe. It's just better.
You can do Adobe on PC too. I've got the whole suite up here.
The thing is with Apple, like I need too much like the connection. Like I need like with my phone and my laptop, I could just basically just like airdrop shit everywhere. Like I can control my TV with everything. It's just I'm just like connected to everything.
You've got an Apple phone too. Okay.
Well, what do you have? What phone do you have?
I built it myself, Greg.
You built your phone
in the woods.
You didn't build
your
phone.
I built my PC, so it's not in anything. I just
I built a PC
from scratch. I'm running Windows
how much
so
did you
Bill
spend
Gates.
How much did you spend on the parts? Like over 1K. How much over 1K?
Under 1K.
Oh, okay.
You just got to, honestly, it's a lot more manual labor, and that's why it's less expensive. That's why it's more costly to not go down that route, but you just find parts, you got to research it, and you just got to build it from scratch. And it's gorgeous. It's so pretty. It's got all this RGB shit, as the kids like to say. Yeah, I just built it from scratch. My phone is an Android. I don't know. I just don't like Apple. I think they suck, and I think Steve Jobs. Well, they're all kind of the same, really. But I don't know. I have an especially high hatred for Apple. I think they're like one of the worst of the evil capitalists, sort of. Right. Who will RFK Jr. endorse when he drops out? I'm going to vote for Trump. That's right. I'm voting against my own prediction. What now, libs?
We'll find out. But he's actively denying it. We just read you like part of that article. We just read that you went hat in hand asking for a job with Kamala Harris, and he's calling it fake news.
Fake news.
That's his only answer. His only answer is fake news. Fake news.
But that's the thing. Here's the thing, guys.
He's a Donald Trump.
Here's the thing, guys. If they said no, then that's a super easy position to take. If they just said no. But if they said yes, then he wouldn't be able to deny it. I'm pretty sure they said no
he's not
because the
denying
campaign.
He's not denying anything. There's no like denial here. There's no straight denial. There's no straight saying like, "Oh, I didn't call her" or anything like that.
You could argue the straight denial is like, I would never endorse Kamala. But again, to your point.
Yeah, like right after the article comes out, like, come on. Like, it's so obvious.
But again, yeah, to your point. Him saying I wouldn't endorse Harris. And again, I'm operating under the provisional conclusion that these are all pathological liars because they're in politics. That's kind of part of the fucking job. at least under capitalism. But here's the thing. He could still say, I'm not endorsing Harris. I would never endorse Harris if she said no. Because part of the deal was giving him a spot in the admin for the endorsement. So if there's no spot, if he got rejected, then he can say like, oh, I'd never endorse her. She's so bad, blah, blah, blah. But nothing about this directly goes, no, I definitely didn't do that. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it would be political, like this would be political suicide for the Dems to bring this guy on. He's said too many things that like you can't go with. So for one, this isn't just true for liberals, but it's for most of the compatible left and even a lot of the far left. You can't criticize any of the big pharma stuff. You can't criticize it. You can't touch it. You gotta agree 100% in lockstep. Otherwise, you're like poison. So the fact that he's so critical, I feel like they'd never say yes in a million years. So we probably went to them, and again, we don't know. We're not here to provide you guys fake news. We're just speculating. But he probably went to them and was like, he probably went to them and was like, listen, Kamala, I will twerk for you on stage. I will. Myself and Nicole, we will both twerk for you on stage.
Kamala, I will eat your ass.
I will eat your ass.
I will literally eat your ass. If you just give me this job.
I will go on stage and pee into my own mouth. If you just give me like janitor. Give me like janitor. Just make me a janitor.
He's sure
in your administration.
It's like that workout video. It's like when he does that workout video, but instead like he like just like shirtless like this.
Exactly.
And Rambo is playing. The Rambo theme is playing in the background.
Yeah, exactly. Just make me a janitor in your organization, and I will say you are the greatest thing since my uncle. You're the next coming of my uncle. In fact, when my uncle died, his soul went into your body. I'll say that. Just make me the head fluffer of the DNC. He could do that. He could totally do that. But if they say no, if they're like, ew, gross, no, go away, then that's that. And he's free to say whatever he wants. Because I just don't see them like going anywhere near this guy. He's too, first off, he's too like right-wing coded. So it wouldn't make sense. Because then they'd have to capitulate too much of that crowd that's already like totally MAGA-ville.
Speaking of which, like, I mean, do you think, like, where's the outcomes here? Because I mean, it seems like both we almost got into this with Kip, but like, it seems like both parties are purposely fumbling the ball to each other. But why?
So here's my kind of analysis of where we're at right now with this kabuki theater, pro wrestling that we call electoral politics. And if you're just tuning in, we here at Politically Homeless, we don't really buy into this too much. This is kind of like fake, and I think we all kind of know it's fake.
That's why, and I think I brought this up before. I'm not interested in the election itself. I'm interested in the narrative management.
Yeah,
because
me too.
We're seeing how the establishment reacts to people in real time, and how what the public opinion is, and they react to us. First and foremost, they are scared of us. So they like a public opinion does matter. That's why they couldn't run a dying corpse up against the game show host. They couldn't do it.
They need to
in
maintain.
good conscience, they were so close to running the dying corpse, the dying meme cow corpse, up on stage. They almost did it. They did it to the point where they even threw him up stage for a debate where he embarrassed himself and shat his pants in front of the entire world, and it became
Shitting
such
and
an
farting.
embarrassment. It became such an embarrassment. They had to hold his hand and drop him out.
Yeah. Yeah, the meme cadaver, if you will.
Indie does have a good article on it on Substack. I believe Kid actually went over with him. I was watching that.
Yeah,
So,
definitely go check that out.
Check out that article as well.
Check out my melody. So okay. The thing is, like, I think they need to maintain the illusion of choice. They need to maintain the validity of the process. I feel like if that veneer ever falls, then there's going to be pandemonium. The second the general populace realizes they don't actually live under a democracy, the second the general populace realizes, oh, we're just getting fucking played, and they're close. Look at the amount of people who don't vote. They're close. We're close. And I think they know that. If the general population realizes democracy isn't an avenue for any kind of change, they're going to start thinking about other options. Because they're like, okay, if we're just in basically a dictatorship, but there's like a face pretending there's no dictatorship, and there's a process that creates the illusion that there's no dictatorship, but at the end of the day, our voices don't mean anything, and they're just going to do a bunch of shit without asking anyone at all what they think about it, including the wars, including all the authoritarian measures that happened because of this crisis or that crisis. And I'm old enough to realize every single crisis we go through, we lose a little bit of our freedom. A little bit of our rights are taken away. Every single time there's a big crisis. It's a war of attrition, if you will. Right? I'm old enough to kind of piece that together, and some of you are as well. But, you know, if the population ever found out as a whole that it's all fake and that they don't actually live under a democracy and that all of these people are just actors who just do all the work for the billionaire class, and you're just there to get milked for your labor, and that's it. You're there to be a good little worker, and you're essentially a slave, and that's it. Then naturally the population would pursue other means. So, what?
What up? All right, let's move on to I'm done talking about elections. Let's just move on to the last segment here. This week we managed to get some Nordstream truth. Finally, the mainstream. 2 years later, we're finally getting some semblance of an idea of who blew up Nordstream. Just yesterday, Berlin authorities, Germany, went ahead and issued an arrest warrant for a Ukrainian nationalist. Now check this out.
This is so fucking goofy.
This is the wackiest shit I've seen in a while. I don't know what's happening here. I genuinely don't know what's happening here.
We have entered the max level of clown world.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm talking about when we're talking about narrative management. Because they need to pin the blame. The time is running up on this. They need to pin the blame on someone. And they can't just have, the U.S. did it. With the help of the U.S. helped Ukraine do it, or something like that, or we have if we reference back to the Seymour Hersh article that said it was U.S. Black Ops professional divers that went in and planted the C4 and blew it up months later.
Mm-hmm.
We know the truth, but let's see what the the officials are trying to cover this up as. So just yesterday, nearly 2 years after the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage, German authorities have reportedly issued an arrest warrant. The suspect, a Ukrainian national, was named as Volodymyr Z for privacy reasons. And what does that sound like to you, a Volodymyr Z? What's a Volodymyr Z?
It sounds like the guy that actually blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. A little bit, right?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of prime suspects. I mean, for instance, Joe Biden alone said that Joe Biden said that he would blow it up. Joe Biden, the president, said that he was going to blow up a critical infrastructure pipeline in Europe that is literally causing an energy crisis in Germany right now because of Russia.
There will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that exactly? Since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control.
We will. I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
That is the most ominous clip you could. Guys, we're talking about like the biggest like you could talk whatever you want about carbon, but spilling this much oil into the ocean is not good for anything. You want to talk about the environment? You want to talk about climate change? Not climate change, but you want to talk about the environment? Nord Stream pipeline was the biggest eco-terrorist attack in human history. And we participated in it. This is just square one of the evidence. But now they're coming out and saying, "Hey, look, it's the Volodymyr Z guy. Who was it?" And so now we have headlines that are coming out saying that Zelensky was waived through Nord Stream the attack, and he tried to stop it. And apparently Zelensky was informed of the plans of the Nord Stream pipeline, and then, according to the Wall Street Journal article, and then cited sources on the Ukrainian military apparatus. Just a day later, after we're hearing about this Berlin arrest, after a day later they issued this arrest warrant for 3 Ukrainian nationals, and then they used the term Volodymyr Z for quote unquote privacy reasons, which I think to anybody should be obvious. And then the next day, literally the next day, Wall Street Journal comes out with like the new art with. I'm trying to find the original article.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But the day after, Wall Street Journal is blaming Zelensky now. Now Zelensky. Now they're straight up pointing the finger at Zelensky because they can take him as a fall guy now. They can just kill him whenever they want, really.
Yeah, because now, like, it's becoming painfully clear that the West is moving towards the end of the Ukraine arc with Russia. They've been kind of trying to pull it back and kind of wean it off for a while, but now it's become painfully clear, and it's escalated to the point where, like, I don't think even America wants anything to do with it. So they're going to start framing him as, like, we're about to watch a hero turn into a villain, people. That's my prediction.
This is an absurd story. This is the headline that Wall Street Journal comes out with the day after. A drunken evening, a rented yacht, the real story of the Nord Stream sabotage. Absolutely absurd shit. It was this is the real story, apparently, according to the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. This is just fresh off the press. This came out just yesterday afternoon. It was the kind of outlandish scheme that might bubble up a bar around closing time. In May 2022, a handful of senior Ukrainian military officers and businessmen gathered to toast their country's remarkable success in halting the Russian invasion. Buoyed by alcohol and patriotic fervor, somebody suggested a radical next step: destroying Nordstream. Can you imagine just like getting? Can you imagine getting fucked up one day? You're just driving a boat and you're driving with your buddies with like beer or whatever, and you're like, "Do you want to blow up a pipeline?"
Yeah, imagine being like, dude, let's blow up the Nordstream pipeline. That's gonna require a lot of preparation that we're not gonna have because we're just drunk on a yacht. Like, what? Sorry.
What better way to make Putin pay than to blow up Germany's pipeline? Just 4 months later, in the small hours of September 26, Scandinavian seismologists picked up signals indicating that an underwater earthquake or volcanic eruption hundreds of miles away, near the Danish island of Bornholm, were caused by powerful explosions in the largest ever recorded release of natural gas. One of the most audacious acts of sabotage in modern history was an assault on critical infrastructure that could be considered an act of war under international law. Theories rolled around about who was responsible. Was it CIA? Was it Russia that blew up their own pipeline? Now, for the first time, the outlines of this real story could be told. The Ukrainian operation cost $300,000, according to people who participated in it. Involved renting a small yacht with a 6-member crew, including 6 civilian trained divers, which is, we're getting closer to the Seymour Hersh version of events.
Mm-hmm.
One was a woman who presents the helped create the illusion they were a group of friends. Ukrainian President Zelensky initially approved the plan, so they're straight up blaming Zelensky now, according to one officer who participated in the 3 people familiar with it. But later the CIA learned of it and asked the Ukrainian president to pull the plug, and then he ordered the halt. And then the commander-in-chief, Zelensky, who was leading the effort, forged ahead anyway. The journal spoke to 4 Ukrainian defense and security officials. I don't, you can take whatever you want, whether this is true or not. Portions of their account were corroborated by a nearly 2-year German police investigation into the attack, which, buy what you will, that they're also bought in the West agenda, West NATO agenda, has obtained evidence that, including email, mobile, and satellite photos, communications, as well as fingerprints and DNA samples from the alleged sabotage team, the Germany inquiry hasn't directly linked President Zelensky to the clandestine operation. But Zelensky, now Ukraine's ambassador to the United Kingdom, said in a text exchange that he knows nothing of any such operation, that any suggestion to the contrary was a mere provocation. Ukraine's armed forces, he added, weren't authorized to conduct overseas missions, and therefore wouldn't have been involved. They don't even have a navy, so there's no way they'd be able to do this on their own. We are involved. We did it. This is a way for the United States to escape culpability. And you see this more and more, the deeper you get into this article. Putin has been blamed for the attacks. Of course, because Russia blamed its own pipeline. A fairy tale's worthy of Brothers Grimm. In June, Germany's federal prosecutor quietly issued a first arrest warrant for a Ukrainian professional diving instructor for his alleged involvement in the sabotage. The German investigation now focusing on Zelensky and his aides. People are familiar with the probe say, although they have no evidence that they could be presented in court, and then the findings could upend relations between Kiev and Berlin, which has provided much of the financing and military equipment to Ukraine, second only to some U.S.-German political leaders may have been willing to overlook evidence pointing to Ukraine for fear of undermining a domestic war effort. So, hey guys, we blew up your pipeline, but we'll keep paying you anyway. It's okay. I know you blew up our pipeline, but we're still cool. You blew up a trillions of dollars pipeline and causing a giant energy crisis in our country right now. But guys, it's all right. you have to fight Russia, so we're going to keep paying you. That's what's happening. German police have been politically independent in their investigation and took on a life of its own. The pursued one lead after another. Following the May 2022 pact between the businessmen and military officers, it was agreed that the former would finance and help execute the project because the army had no funds and was increasingly relying on foreign financing as it pushed back against the onslaught of the gargantuan neighbor. A sitting general with experience in special overseas operations would oversee the mission, which one participant described as a public-private partnership. He would report directly to the head of our Ukraine's armed forces, the four-star general Zelensky. Within days, Zelensky approved the plan, according to 4 people familiar with the plot. All arrangements were made verbally, leaving no paper trail. But the next month, the Dutch military intelligence agency MIVD learned of the plot, warned the CIA, according to several people familiar with the Dutch report. U.S. officials then promptly informed Germany, according to the U.S. and German officials. The CIA warned Zelensky's offices to stop the operation, and the Ukrainian president then ordered Zelensky to halt it. According to you're getting 3 characters involved: the CIA, Zelensky, the guy who, tried to, apparently tried to coup Putin, which is, has a whole story of its own. Not totally true. The CIA warned Zelensky to stop the operation. The Ukrainian president Zelensky then ordered Zelensky to halt it, as according to Ukrainian officers, as well as the conversation with Western intelligence. They're getting this fed to them by intelligence agencies and like Kiev. So buy into whatever much you will. Question everything. But the general ignored the order, and they're pinning the blame on Zelensky. Zelensky basically went ahead with the plan anyway. The CIA told Zelensky to stop it, and they're just going on with it anyway. They were tasked with Ukraine's top special operations officers experiencing orchestrating high-risk clandestine missions against Russia. One of them was Roman Jervinsky, decorated colonel who had previously served in Ukraine's main security intelligence service, the SBU. Jervinsky is currently on trial in Ukraine for unrelated charges, and in July he was released on bail. He declined to comment on the Nordstream case. But in a subsequent broadcast interview, he said that the sabotage had 2 positive effects for Ukraine. It helped loosen Russia's grip on the European countries. And despite the war, Ukraine clubs lucrative transit fees for Russian oil and gas that would be worth hundreds of millions of dollars a year. So Jervinsky and the sabotage team initially studied an older, elaborate plan to blow up the pipeline drafted by Ukrainian intelligence and Western experts after Russia first invaded Ukraine in 2014, according to the people familiar with the plot. After dismissing the idea due to the cost and complexity, the planners settled on using a small land sailing boat and a team of 6 seasoned active duty officers and civilians with maritime expertise to blow up the 700-mile long pipelines that sat more than 600 feet below the sea surface. Now, what I actually don't buy here is this was not done by just a bunch of Ukrainians. There's no way. A mission this sophisticated that you could. I forgot who said it, but it was someone like in the Russian government who said like that is the most surveilled sea in the entire world. There's no way you get around that operation without special ops. And according to Seymour Hersh, it was U.S. Black Ops, a team of around 8 or 9, not 6 like they're alleging here. So in September 2022, the plotters rented a 50-foot leisure yacht to the Germany's Baltic port town of Rostock, and the boat was leased with them in the help of a Polish travel agency that was set up by Ukrainian intelligence as a cover financial transactions nearly a decade ago. One crew member, a military officer on active duty who was fighting the war, was a seasoned skipper, and 4 were experienced deep-sea divers, people familiar with the German investigation said. The crew included civilians. One of them was a woman in her 30s who trained privately as a diver. She was handpicked for their skills, but also lent more plausibility to the crew's disguised as friends on a holiday. The skipper took a short leave from his unit, which had been fighting on the front of the southeast of Ukraine, and his commander was kept in the dark, according to Ukrainians. Ukraine has a long history of training top civilian and military divers. This is no way. There's no way that Ukrainians, like a bunch of Ukrainians, there's no way that just a bunch of Ukrainians did this. Absolutely no way.
No, man, they just had a night out and it got a little wacky, okay? Like, that's what happened.
Dolphins. The naval base in the Crimean Peninsula that trained past sea divers, they kept combat dolphins.
Combat dolphins?
No, they literally had combat dolphins. They're saying this. Work is happy about this.
Yeah.
Combat dolphins. This you didn't think this was real? It's real. It's real, bitch.
Those dolphins are class traitors. Those dolphins are fucking trots. Okay,
I will say, I'm on Team Orca. Sink the rich. 2024, baby.
Sink them all.
You gotta sink them all. The base was overtaken by Russia when they took Crimea. Armed with only diving equipment, satellite navigation, and portable sonar and open source maps of the seabed, the crew set out. The 4 divers worked in pairs, according to people familiar with the German investigation. Operating in pitch dark, icy waters, they handled a powerful explosive known as the HMX that was wired to timer-controlled detonators. And then a small amount of the light explosive would be sufficient to rip open the high-pressure pipes, which is, you need C4 for that. You can't just blow it up. Spending 20 minutes at that depth required around 3 hours of decompression. The person then must refrain from driving for at least 24 hours to risk serious injury. Inclement weather forced the crew to make an unplanned stop at the Swedish port of Sandhamn. One diver accidentally dropped an explosive device at the bottom of the sea. The crew then discussed whether to abort the operation due to bad weather, but the storm subsided. Witnesses on the other yachts moored in Sandham noted that the yacht that they sailed in was only a boat with a small Ukrainian flag hoisted on its mast. In the wake of the attack, which took 3 or 4 conduits forming of the pipelines, energy prices surged. Germany and other nations scrambled to nationalize energy companies that handled the Russian gas, but collapsed after the pipelines were destroyed. Even today, Germany is paying around $1 million a day alone to lease floating terminals that for liquefied natural gas, or LNG, which only partly replaced the Russian gas flow channeled by Nordstream. Germany, Denmark, and Sweden, and the U.S., among others, sent out warships, divers, underwater drones, and aircraft to investigate the area around the gas leaks. Zelensky took Zelensky to task, but the general shrugged off his criticism, according to 3 people familiar. Zelensky told the sabotage team that once dispatched, the Incumato couldn't be called off because any contact with them would be compromising the operation. Days after the attack on October 2022, Germany's Foreign Secret Service received a secret second tip-off about the Ukrainian plot from the CIA, which again passed on a report by Dutch military intelligence, the MIVD, and offered a small, detailed account of the attack, including the type of boat used and possible route taken by the crew. The Netherlands built deep intelligence gathering capacity in Ukraine and Russia after Russian-backed paramilitaries downed the Malaysia Airlines flight originating from Amsterdam over eastern Ukraine. Due to the rules governing the sharing classified intelligence, German police investigating the case were not allowed to see the Dutch report that linked Zelensky and the Ukrainian military to the attack. But they were made aware by intelligence officials. German investigators questioned dozens of potential witnesses, scanned the bottom of the sea around the blast, sifted through messages, digital communication, travel records, and financial transactions. They had one lucky break. It was rushing to leave Germany. The sabotage crew neglected to watch the yacht, allowing German detectives to find traces of explosive fingerprints. Yeah, that seems so very convenient. Investigators later identified their mobile phone numbers. That allowed them to reconstruct their entire journey of the boat. which U.S. authorities sought a court order to obtain from Google. This seems like a very elaborate way to set this all up. But we're almost done here. Intelligence later identified the mobile phone numbers, investigated all the mobile phone traffic, where the areas of the boat that was located. They were startled to find out that thousands of German mobile phones were active in that tiny Swedish port. And it was later emerged that a vast cruise ship belonging to tourist operator passed, and the phones of the German passengers briefly linked up with a local cellular mast. They struggled at one point to secure the cooperation of Polish authorities, despite the fact that the saboteurs in Poland, partly as a logistical base, and stopped in the Polish port of Klausbrecht. Port of officials suspicious of the yacht's crew alerted police, and the Poland's border guard checked the identification of the crew, who produced passports from the European Union members. They were allowed to continue sailing north, where they laid the rest of their mines. People familiar with the investigation and then the entire port was covered with extensive video surveillance. However, despite the history of a close cooperation between Warsaw and Berlin, police officials initially refused to hand over the CCTV footage of that port. And then this year, they were told that German colleagues that found the footage had been routinely destroyed shortly after the intermediate departed. The Polish Internal Security Agency told the journal that no such footage exists, maybe because they destroyed it. By November 2022, the German investigators believed Ukrainians were behind the operation. Zelensky ousted Zelensky from his military post, saying that the shakeup was needed to reboot the war effort. Zelensky was viewed domestically as a potential political rival and was later appointed Ukraine's ambassador of the UK. In June, German officials issued a confidential arrest warrant for the Ukrainian citizen who Germans believed was one of the crew members. According to people familiar with the investigation, a van was driving the Ukrainian sabotage team from Poland to Germany and then snapped by a German speed camera. And then the diving instructor living near his family in Warsaw was in the photo. So authorities in Poland didn't act on the warrant. The instructor was believed to have since returned to Ukraine, but Poland's failure to arrest him was a major blow to the German probe, because he and other suspects have now been tipped off and will avoid traveling outside Ukraine. People familiar with the investigation said Ukraine isn't extraditing its own citizens, which is totally not true. They're extraditing people from UK to go fight in war, go die in their meat grinder.
Pretty much.
Ukrainian officials, Ukraine and Poland and all the other surrounding countries. Ukrainian officials who participated in the plot believe it would be impossible to put any of the commanding officials on trial because no evidence exists beyond the conversation among top officials, who were at least initially all in agreement about wanting to blow up the pipelines. None of them will testify, lest they incriminate themselves. So they need a fall guy. They need someone to pin this on. It looks like it's going to be. I mean, they're directly naming Zelensky, and you understand, like as a terror crime of this scale, of this magnitude, literally causing energy crisis. Like this is a declaration of war.
Yeah, but as we can see,
culpability for this thing. This is one of the most interesting stories that came out of that year. Because I remember when that happened, and then people were like, "Oh, Russia did it. Putin."
Yeah,
that was the first line that they had. Was Putin did it? Putin blew up his own pipeline, and it was a mess from there. It was always a mess. But we never got the real story from that, and I don't even believe Seymour Hersh's article. It was like that accurate, because Seymour Hersh himself, honestly, he doesn't have like the best track record. I mean, He's pretty accurate. He's pretty respected. I mean, he's been around for a long time. That's why people respect him. But like his version of events might not even be totally accurate either. We're never going to get the truth. We're never going to get the truth about what happened on the biggest terrorist attack in human history. We'll never get that. We'll never get any idea of what happened. Well, Seymour Hersh can provide us with like a semblance, of like what happened. It was probably U.S. Black Ops. A team of U.S. Black Ops came down, professional divers. They planted the C4 and they blew it up months later when they got the call. That's why
Here's what I
Biden
find
was able to say so confidently, "We're gonna blow it up. We'll just blow it up." I think
Yeah.
that's why he was so confident. And Victoria Nuland too. There's that clip too of Victoria Nuland. So there was not going to be a Nordstream too. We're just going to blow it up.
Mhm.
So
Here's what I find kind of interesting. You guys notice how when an event happens, there's all these narratives. But like later on, when like the trail's thrown off and everybody's distracted with different sort of spinning plates, if you will, then shit like this always comes out. They kind of dish out like okay, here's kind of probably closer to the truth of what happened. Way after the event. But eventually, I feel like that's a strategy the establishment has. It's like, we'll give you, you know, a little bit more after everybody calms down and gets distracted by another psyop.
Yeah.
Don't you say that, Indy. The Norwegians are good people. They can never be associated with something like this. Take that back, sir. I'm
right.
kidding.
I'm pretty tired of that. That was all I had for pretty much for tonight. Yeah, unless you want to go further.
I got at least a couple more hours of stuff, so let's keep going here. No, I'm kidding. Couple quick things.
I wish I could get into more, but we really got deep with Kit, which I appreciate more. I think that's better than like I had something on the hacker story, but like I think that like there's nothing really there. It's just speculation.
Sometimes you just gotta have fun. Yeah.
Girls just wanna have fun. Sorry.
Exactly. So I got a couple quick things to say. First and foremost, Politically Homeless has their own. We've got our own YouTube channel now, partially because INN is getting fucked into oblivion by the fascists over at YouTube. But also, it's always nice to have backup.
Well, Susan just died. Susan died. The YouTube CEO.
Aw. Oh.
She died of cancer at 56.
Good. I'm bitter. I don't care. Good. I hope she dies twice.
You know what? I actually really like Kick a lot because we have the Pepe emojis.
I like Kick a lot too. So make sure
I just made on this stream. I just made my own personal Kick account. I might stream games there at some point.
Nice.
Just there.
Yeah. Guys, make sure to follow INN on Kick, but also make sure to follow and subscribe to Politically Homeless, which is at Homeless Politics, one word, at YouTube. I'm going to share it on my Snow Himbo channel momentarily. But yeah, in addition to that, a couple more quick things. Be sure to keep a hand on the pulse of all the other shows going on. Additionally, the Maple Files also has their own YouTube channel, _Maple_Files. And just a bit of a teaser.
We beat the algorithm by just blasting it everywhere.
Just blasting it in the ass.
Blasting it in the ass.
Ass blastery. That's what we're here for at Politically Homeless. One more thing, though. I do want to give a bit of a teaser for next episode. We have a juicy climate change sort of discussion point, and I'd like to say it's based off a study, and I've reached out to a certain university for comment. So I'm going to make sure to get an official statement from them by next week as well. But yeah, there's going to be an interesting kind of discussion around the climate change stuff a little bit. So,
and I am trying to. Hold on. see if this works. There we go. Yeah, so I've been actually trying to put more work into this. So like a lot of my work, my day-to-day work, I'm like doing. I'm actually doing hotspot. I'm working for that account. I don't know if you see that on Twitter. But some of the work, I mean, like maybe like a couple hours a day is like kind of like just like researching, like doing like just seeing like viral videos and like I'm like posting a lot like along with like a couple other people, but whatever I see, whatever the contributions I'm making, I'm just like reposting my shit there. So follow the Politically Homeless Telegram for breaking news, daily updates. I forgot to send like the live stream update today, but there I do update with daily videos and daily daily videos, breaking news, viral videos, memes, whatever, every single day.
Big news.
Big news. I'm trying
boy.
I'm trying to bust out my TikTok a little bit more too. But anything but YouTube. YouTube sucks. I fucking hate YouTube.
I hate that that's the main like hub for content. And like anything anybody wants to actually talk about that matters, they're like, no, you gotta talk about stupid bullshit. I hate it. I can't stand it. That's why you see more and more content creators going to Rumble and other avenues, because it's gotten to the point where it's like I have to report on this as a journalist or as a content creator, and you're not letting me do it. So I feel like YouTube's days might be numbered. Either that, or it's just going to turn into this massive like shitlib echo chamber where like nothing outside of like, corporate narratives is allowed to even be spoken about.
If anyone knows how, because like I'm trying to like really set this up on my on the Telegram channel to like be able to stream there, but like I don't see any option to get like a screen key. A stream key. It's kind of ridiculous, but yeah. We'll be posting clips there and stuff too. Daily breaking news, viral videos. Subscribe to the Telegram. There's also a discussion channel as well.
Mm-hmm.
Am I still here?
Yeah, you're still here.
In the immediate aftermath of 9/11, we did some things that were wrong.
Let's win in 2020, and we're gonna do it again in 2024.
Oops. Am I frozen?
No, you're fine. You just played a couple of intro videos though, which was kind of funny.
Am I frozen?
No, you're not frozen.
Fuck.
All right. Well, I guess Crab has perished. Breaking. Big Mad Crab has died.
I'm back.
Rest in peace. Oh, I just told them you died. Shit.
I'm not dead yet, but we're gonna figure shit out. Like I said, Telegram, check out the upcoming shows, IndieNewsNetwork, Politically Homeless, Maple Files, Sohimbo, Big Mac Crab. You can follow us on Twitter, whatever. Check us out. We'll be back next week, folks.
Pee pee poo poo and